Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. I am recording on a Sunday, and it's kind of interesting because usually I don't like to do anything on the weekends because that's my time. But occasionally it's you do what you have to do so that you can do a thing. And before coming on, my guest and we were having a conversation in the background about how I got started. And I was like, I never know what I'm going to say before I say it. When I come onto this podcast and I say those lines, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. And then things start to flutter my mind and I'm able to talk about it right on the spot. But the one thing that I did think about was the rule of three. And the rule of three is something that I learned in school when I was taking some writing classes, and writing I've always struggled with. I've always been a better public speaker than writer. And I've never forgotten the rule of three. And it's interesting how the rule of three has been in my life for so long with so many different things, including triathlon. It's threes. In my faith, it's threes, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And then in Tri, it's swim, bike, run. And there's something so powerful about when things come together in threes. And so we are so honored to be able to do this sport. And I just don't know why I talked to you about that. And maybe it's going to help somebody, but the rule of three. So whenever you're doing anything in writing and you're trying to make a point, you need to highlight three things because those three things will stick. Don't do two and don't do one, but do three. That's my tidbit for you on today. Well, this guest, I don't know how we met, but I think we officially probably became familiar on social media. And then we had the pleasure of meeting in person last year at USA Triathlon Age Group Nationals in New Jersey. And I was like, oh, this is you in person. I think we were at the Swim Start. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I don't know if you mean, I'm dramatic. And so when I meet people in person for the first time, it's always just like, wow, like we're not behind a screen or we're not behind social media, but I get to meet you live and in the flesh. And so this person, I think what was so, at least when I am on social media, I'm not ever really on social media, but I'm on social media. And I think it was the positive energy that this person emitted, or is that the right word? That he exude. We'll use exude for this matter. And I didn't know, but he always smiled and just seemed like to have a very upbeat personality. But sometimes you can't always get that from social media, but that's what I perceived from him. And after his first full Ironman, which was great, right? Because, everyone is congratulating you. He went on to do a month of 5Ks a day. And I said, And it didn't matter how he did it. It was a run, a walk, a jog, a walk, whatever. He did a 5K a day. And so a year passes and we're back here in May again. And I saw it again and I was like, what is this 5K thing about a day? And then it hit me. I said, oh, he must be celebrating something, but we'll find out. But I think at least what I was perceiving was that it was maybe his birthday. And so for his birth month, the way he honors himself is to try and do a 5K every day of the month of May. We're in May. we get him on his birth month. So this is like a happy birthday to Mr. Drumroll, fake drumroll. I don't know if you can hear that. Adventuretime Adam. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. How are you?
Good evening, good evening. I am doing well and I am honored to be here.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really like know him, but from a distance, we always feel like we know people from a distance.
Yes.
And so it's really an honor to have you on. And I'm just going to jump right into it. 5K a day? What is that about? And do you do it multiple times a year or just in your birth month?
So it actually started last year and I woke up and I was like, for my birthday, I usually like to take a trip, but I was like for the whole month I'm just going to celebrate health and wellness. Being in the triathlon world, you definitely get a lot of experiences of what health and physical abilities are. But I was like, outside of that, what can I just do to show up for myself every day for the month of May? Just celebrating me, give myself some time to think over things, just relax in my mind, but something that is related to exercise and health. And so I started doing 5Ks for May days or May days and 5Ks. And didn't matter if it was a walk or run, but just at some point within each 24-hour period, each day in May, I wanted to get out and do a 5K, and it turned out to be really almost therapeutic. It was something that I looked forward to because it wasn't necessarily a race or a run. It was just something. It's like, okay, this is going to be your 45 minutes to an hour where you just get to be outside, primarily outside, but for some days it's raining or if I'm getting off work late, it ends up being on a treadmill, but it's still my time to clear my head and just enjoy being able to exercise. And the 5K itself, I wouldn't really consider it exercise in that environment just because it's not a pressured um, event. It's just, this is you just doing a 5K just for yourself, showing up for yourself today for this time period. So the coming year or this year, I actually tried to drag some of my friends and family in. They asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I was like, I want you guys to join me in this. Just get out and do a 5K. You can even split it up if you can't knock it out all in one setting. Just get the distance in and just let me know that you did it. So it's been kind of encouraging and nice to see the people that have participated with me going through that. But that is with the 5Ks for May Days. And yes, it is a celebration. May 30th will be here before you know it, and I'm excited to celebrate on that day as well.
Okay. Let me unpack what you just said because my eyes popped open a few times when you was like, the 5K isn't really a workout. And I was like, what? Because of course it's not a workout to someone who's just done 26.2 miles. Like that's a warm up, right? But to an average Joe, a 5K is a lot. And to do it consecutively is a lot. So I was like, not a 5K. But I do also understand the no pressure. It's like
Mhm.
you're just getting out there and you're doing it and clearing your head. So I love that. So it's May Day 5K.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And May 30th is your birthday,
That's the
right?
birthday. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. Let me see. Oh, so May 30th is on a Friday.
It is.
Too bad this comes out on a Wednesday. So anyway, it could be just an early birthday present, about a week and some change early. Well, I'm really glad. So how this came about, I was uh at church actually, and a lot of times I'm like, so who's gonna be on? And I received an image of Adam's face and was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna ask him. And there's always sometimes resistance when people are a little bit shyer. They're like, I don't want to talk to her. But I'm like, I promise it'll be great. And not knowing that it was his birthday. And sometimes I get images of people who it's like to celebrate and to honor them. So thank you so much for coming on. Happy early birthday to you. And
Thank you.
continue to encourage your family. Like that's so cool to ask them to participate with you. How many people said yes to your request?
So three were a definite yes, and then some were like, well, we can do what we can do. So I'll take them and appreciate them for that. And
Okay.
like you had mentioned, it is a lot to ask someone to get up every day and dedicate the distance of a 5K, especially
Yeah.
for people that just aren't used to doing it. And any number of things can deter them if they've had a long day of work, if they've got childcare, if it's raining outside, if it's too hot outside. So taking all of that in, it's it is a feat for people to get done, but I'm truly happy that there are some participants in it. And even just for myself, I don't look at it as part of any part of my training. It's
Mhm.
literally something that I get out to do and just enjoy for myself.
Okay. So now my question for you is the 5K in addition to any of your regular triathlon workouts?
I don't want to say in addition because if it wasn't in the month of May, then I would just be doing kind of like whatever I would be doing for training per se. But
Mhm.
hmm, so yes, it is an addition then to answer your question. But I don't look at it as, oh, this is additional triathlon training because whatever pace I'm at. If it's a walk around the lake, if it's yeah, I don't know. It's not part of my tri training.
It's cool. Like you're doing this in addition to as a again a healthy alternative to it's your therapy for 31 days where you can
Yes,
be reflect or you know so that you can be reflective on whatever it is you're reflecting on.
absolutely.
I think that's really cool because today you actually literally did a triathlon this morning.
Yes. Now today I may use that that run for the 5K because I don't know that I really have the energy to get back out and do it again. But we'll see this evening if I'm feeling good that I'll go do another one, and that for sure will be a walk today or this evening.
So that was a buildup, right? Like I was asking that question because I was like, wait a minute, because you surely just did a triathlon just today,
And that was a
this morning.
10K.
Um,
That was a 10K.
so how was your triathlon? How did you do today? What was it like? Tell us about your triathlon today before we get into like the whole journey of it.
Sure. So today's triathlon was the Bear Triathlon in Lum's Pond in Delaware, put on by Ripid Events. And this is my third year being able to do it. Last year, my bike just failed. And I think before even mile one, I couldn't get the gears to shift. So wasn't able to get anywhere past the swim. So my second official time completing it. And it was a good day. The weather was awesome. I was there with a great group of friends. I believe I might have PR'd it today, but I haven't had time to go back and compare the results. However, I did do much better than some of the people that I went with, so I was very, very excited and thrilled about that, and they celebrated it, so that was nice too. But the swim was great, the bike was great, the run was. I actually ran the whole 10K, and that was kind of a shock because I wasn't really feeling like running the whole thing, but that turned out to be really well too. There was a lot of motivation behind it. Weather was beautiful in Delaware. There was a slight overcast, so that was nice. And just the whole event itself was good. There was lots of support. I ran into a lot of good friends at Swim Start, so kept the nerves down and here we are kicking off the season with a good race. So that was a lot of fun.
So today is also the start of your triathlon.
That's it.
Come,
Season opener.
come on. And to think that this might not have happened, and yet it's the season opener of the tri season for you.
Yes.
So, what does that mean when you have that first race of the season? How do you, are you heavily anticipating it? Do you always plan to do a race around your birth month, or it just happened to fall at a time where you're like, hey, I'm doing this race to commence the start of my season?
I feel like this is probably if if I remain in the area, then this would definitely be the race as always to be a season opener. The the event or the venue itself is just set up well for a, even if as a beginner, it would be a great beginner's open water swim. The water's usually flat. There's no, it's in a pond or a lake, a pond, I guess. And so there's not much current. The swim is pretty straightforward, just left turns and then you're back at the start. And then it kind of settles into the transition from colder winter to springtime. So it's usually a nice temperatured race too.
Mhm.
So it really is a great first season opener. And I don't know too many other races that are semi local that I really want to travel to be cold. So this one, the temperature here or in Delaware is really nice around this time of the year. And birthday time, birthday season, that's always a big plus too. So, and they offer sprint and Olympic. So that's nice too. If you decide you don't want to do the Olympic, there's a sprint race for you. Nice, really short and good, still good event and venue to do that at.
Yeah, May is a tricky time of year in this area,
Yeah.
particularly to do triathlons because you don't know what it's going to be. I
Hmm.
mean, just 2 days ago, there was a massive monsoon,
Yeah.
hurricane, tornado that rolled through that brought through cooler weather. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well,
Hmm.
we didn't ask for it, but we will accept it
We'll
graciously.
accept
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just really one of those tough months, but we know by the time it hits June, it's going to be consistently hot, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll be complaining because it's like hot and muggy and bugs, humidity, and you're like, man, but when it was cool,
And
I was
that's why I
like,
love May. It's just got that subtlety to it. And it can rain for 15 days, be cool for the last 15. It's kind of a toss up, but I appreciate that it's that transitional month between spring and summer.
it is. It's a good transitional month. Speaking of transition, let's transition to why triathlon? Like, how did you even get the taste of doing triathlons?
The taste of this poison, no, it's a good thing.
No, you're right. It's poison in a good way,
In
but
a good
it's
way. In
oof.
a good way. I ended up relocating to the Maryland area in the winter of 2020. And I was out I was out at a park and I kept seeing this gentleman just running and I think maybe even biking at some point. And so I finally caught up with him and I was like, "Hey, just what are you training for? What are you doing in general?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, I'm training for a triathlon." And I was like, I didn't want to ask him what that was, but I'm like, "Well, can't Google it right now, so let me just ask him. He's here in my face." So I was like, "Well, what is that?" And he's like, "Oh, you get to swim, bike, and run." And of course, in my mind, I'm like, that sounds like a nice weekend thing. How many days you get to complete all three distances? And he's like, no, it's all at one time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's that. So he's like, yeah, you should do it. And so he gave me the information to look up the event. It happened to be the Columbia Association Tri that was happening in June. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So left the park, looked it up a little later, and I was like, I don't really have a bike, and I enjoy being in the water, but I wouldn't call being in the water swimming by any stretch of the imagination. So that would require me to get a gym membership or at least access to a gym that had a pool. But I was also transitioning to the area, new job, just a bunch of stuff going on. So it was kind of like, well, do I even have the time to do this? And in the process of the transition moving here, I had a realtor, and we of course spent a lot of time together just looking for properties and houses and stuff. So general conversation, I was like, yeah, and ran into this guy who's doing a triathlon. He's like, oh, well, we should do it. I'm like, man, why did I open why did I open my mouth to that? Because he was down for it, but it turned out to be really really good to have his support because in a new area and you don't really know a ton of people. And it's like, all right, well, we're spending all this time together looking at these houses. Might as well go do a triathlon. So I want to say we might have been about 5 months out from the Columbia Association Tri. Ended up getting a bike with a straight bar, which I didn't know about road bikes, any of the different nuances that triathlon had, but ended up getting an inexpensive bike and then getting a membership at LA Fitness because they had swimming pools. And in between just life and other obligations, I would try to get in some training because I had looked up the distance for the triathlon. It was a pool swim, I think a 10-mile or 12-mile bike, and then a 5K. And I'm like, okay, I can manage a 5K. It's just the other two things that I need to work on. I will tell you that getting out of a pool and then getting on a bike and then running after is just, it's, it is a lot and not to be sneezed at. So, do a little training here and there. Me and my realtor meet up, do some training. Then race day comes, and we're at the the brim of the pool, and just seeing it all, it's like, man, this is intense. We get in the water. I don't even really remember what happened, but I know by the last length, I was on my back doing some modified backstroke, just trying to get out of the water. So I made it out of the water, injury free. Realtor gets out. He's cussing, and it is just the funniest thing because he's like, "What did we sign up for?" And I was like, "Well, you're the one that pushed it, so here we are." But made it through that, and at the end of the race, there was some tents set up, and one of them was for the local triathlon club. It was a Mid Maryland Triathlon Club, and so went on over there. They were really friendly. I got some information about more information about triathlon, and I was like, okay, this wasn't too bad. I've already invested in an inexpensive bike. Let's see if there's any more shorter distances or anything else that I can get into, because it was fun amid all of the suffering during the race. At the end of it, it was nice to know that I had accomplished something and something that I had never even heard of before, let alone participated in. So that would, I say, that would be the beginning of my triathlon journey.
Okay, I like that. So it's all because your realtor was like, yeah, let's do this.
Let's
And then
do it.
he's the one who's rethinking life choices as he's getting out of the pool. That
As
is
he's getting out of the pool. Yeah, and it's interesting just the mention of the word triathlon, looking back on it, just kind of almost instantly just brought people together. So the person that I met at the park and then just dropping it to my realtor, it's like almost formed kind of instant connections, even if neither of us were had done it before or were great at any of the three events. It was still just something that created a mutual interest. So that was nice.
it is. It is really a sport that instantly connects you because, at least this is my personal opinion, anyone who crosses one finish line understands what it takes to get there. And so if you're out there, whether you're doing a super sprint, a sprint, an Olympic, mid distance, 70.3, or, long 140.6, there's different challenges at each, but what it took to get to that point. And so you're instantly family. and
Yeah.
and that it like you walk around anywhere with your shirt on, your swag, no matter what it is, and if it has an emblem of swim, bike, run, it instantly is a conversation starter.
Yes, that it is for sure. And like you said, you almost bond with those people because they may not have had the same struggles that you had, but there definitely was some type of struggle, and you have that empathy of understanding, like, man, I know what you've, I know partially what you've been through, and it's pretty cool to be in that environment.
Exactly. But what I think is so cool that in 2020, and this is no shade, so I need you to hear me when I say this is not any, it's not being shady, but I find it interesting and that in 2020 you didn't know about triathlon.
No.
However, it tells me this is an area of opportunity for those who want the sport to grow, to get the information out there. Well, thanks, Try Beginner's Luck. You're doing your part. I am. Pat myself on the
Yes,
back
absolutely.
for doing that. No, I'm really, I don't know why I'm being this way. But no, but I think it's so cool because, we can think that people are familiar of a thing, but they really aren't. And I think making that assumption really does, it's to our detriment because
Mm,
more people could really be understanding. And what does that look like on the grassroots level? to get more people in sport. Like, people are like, well, we want to grow the sport. How
Sure.
do you want to grow the sport? How are you making it easy and accessible, or at least marketing it to people so that they can understand and know that it's even in existence? And then when you asked how many days do you have? Oh gosh, that if I could have bust out laughing, it because it's so innocent. Like,
Yeah,
how many days do we have to?
to
Such
finish
an
this.
innocently harmless question.
Right.
And you found out. You do it
It's
in a
all in
day.
one day. It's one day and within hours. It's not even the full the full day.
It's not. You're doing a five like this today. You did a sprint for breakfast.
Mm,
How did it take? And it tastes good. Like, cause afterwards you can just you go, you feel accomplished. You've
yeah.
swim, you've spiked, you've run. You woke up. That's the starter. Okay, you woke
Sure.
up,
Yeah.
and then was able to do all those things. And it's just like, and you're done by 10, 11 o'clock, and you can go on with your day and travel back home and be on this
That's
podcast. You see what I'm saying? Like, it just works out that
it
way.
does.
Um, what I appreciate is Mid Maryland, and I love Mid Maryland. They are a very large triathlon group in Maryland. And for them to be able to be out there, that's instant membership almost. And, for people who are tri curious. So
Hmm.
shout out to the Mid Maryland Tri Club for that. So you do your first race. You and your realtor, I'm assuming, were pretty much together. Y'all hung together
We
throughout
did,
the
yeah.
race. You finish. And then what was next?
Taking the next 2 days off of work. I thought that I
Did
was
you really take off
in the
work?
Olympics. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I needed a nap. It's funny because looking back on it now, like even tomorrow, I'll be back in the office. But back then, that was like it was a challenge. And so you said, "What's next?" I took the next day off from work because I needed that to recover from a sprint triathlon. But fast forwarding, it sparked an interest in doing a few more events. So despite that recovery day that I so desperately needed, it it built interest into doing more events.
I love that natural sequence that you took some time off. It was like, I needed a nap. I needed to rest. My body was tired.
Yeah. Yep. And even now doing them, of course the recovery time has decreased, but it's that feeling of accomplishment. It's like, okay, you've done something that was challenging. And the rest is more it's more satisfying now, I guess you could say, instead of just being in a fetal position on the floor, like, okay, your body your body needs healing. But
That fetal position. I cannot. But this is the truth, right?
yeah,
Like, when I want people to come, I want you to give me like the real raw. And because you just started, this is so much more like at the forefront of your mind, your
yeah.
memory, and it probably is what helps to drive you. So you said, okay, I'm going to sign up for more races. What was your natural progression? Because in 2024, you did your first full 140.6
Hmm.
Ironman distance race. I think was what it Ironman Texas.
Ironman Texas, yes. Yep.
So, what was that natural progression like for you? Because you first started off by saying earlier, I don't know if I have time for this.
Hmm.
And when you start to train for a full, that's a whole second job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to mention this two people that you're feeding that really is just one person. Like, it's a whole different. It's anyway, but yes, tell us the progression.
So a little bit foggy on that, but I know after joining Mid Maryland, I met a bunch of great people within the club, and I think I did a few more sprints that year, um, with the Ripid events and even I think Kinetic that year. And then in the fall of that year, Ripid Events actually opened up for their ambassador program. And so I ended up applying for their ambassador program and was selected for the 2022 season to be an ambassador. And that just ended up being a lot of fun because then you're part of a team that is also a race, or the race company has a team. So they put on a bunch of events. You get to do those events. You're racing with your fellow ambassadors, meeting more people, going to different venues. So that made it a lot more, I don't want to say appealing, but it just gave me a different outlet to focus on outside of like work and just other things that were going on in life. So joining Mid Maryland and Ripid Events between 2021 and 2022 kind of offset or kind of rocketed doing more in triathlon. So I believe in 2022, that was when I did bear for the first time. And so that was the first Olympic distance, and felt like I was back at that beginning square one again, ready to take a week off from work and just lay on the floor because it humbled me yet again. And that was my first open water swim race. So that in itself was a different beast to try to take in and understand.
All right. So 2022, you're an ambassador. You're racing with other like-minded individuals. You guys get to chop it up in the private chats. I
Mm-hmm.
think we talk about this a little bit, and I've shared different ways that you can be a part of the sport, whether you're an ambassador for the race company, which allows you to race in some instances for free.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. In addition for you volunteering your time, which I think is a really cool exchange to
Mm-hmm.
allow people to race and uh, continue to grow the sport, because those are your uh, they're your champions. They're championing for your event, so people are like, oh, I want to try this. um, you can be a part of brand teams, which is also another cool way. So there's multiple ways that you can enter the sport. You can do it independently. You can be on a coach, and a coach has a team, kind of like the No Limits endurance team, or
Mm-hmm.
like Team Z, or some of the other things that we've talked about. Or you can be a part of a club like
Yeah.
Maryland. Mid Maryland Tri Club is a club where they're just about the community, and it's not in a team capacity. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. So I want to talk a little bit about the ambassador program, because I really do think that that's such a cool way, especially for a beginner, to kind of have an accelerated approach to the sport. And I want you to share as well how that helped to accelerate you and your growth in the sport of triathlon.
Sure. So with the ambassador program, you do get to volunteer at their events. And that in itself was just an eye-opening and an awesome experience, because then you get to see, I I usually like to volunteer for the registration table, because get to smile at people as they come up, try to get them to relax their shoulders and encourage them for the event that they're about to undertake. And it's also just a way to show or say, hey, I'll be doing this event too. And if they have any questions, if you've done it before, you can kind of share some of your experiences with them. But being a part of the ambassador team, you're surrounded, like you had said, by other like-minded people who may be faster than you, slower than you, at your same pace, don't really have a goal, just want to be out there having a good time. So that in itself just opened up a window or a door to gain more knowledge, gain more um, friendships, things of that nature. And then you also meet people for specifically for Ripit or their ambassador program. They do not only multi-sport, but they do just running events and then swim runs. So not everybody who was an ambassador was in it for a triathlon. So it was nice to meet people that were like, oh, yeah, well, I just like to bike ride, or I bike ride a lot. So you get that opportunity to just go out riding with some of them, or people who are just set on running. you get to have that opportunity to hone that skill as well, or just be in that space with people who still have their specifics, but are still part of that ambassador team for the organization.
I'm here for it. It's interesting when you mentioned volunteer, um, and I mentioned it as well prior. But this month is shaping up to be where I've had people on talking about volunteerism. As a participant in the sport, as a participant in sport and then volunteering, how has that enriched your experience?
So being on both sides of, like you had mentioned, being a volunteer and being a participant, the event cannot happen without your volunteers. And a lot of times there are family members or friends of participants who are coming out to support them, or just people in the community who know about the event that's happening and they just want to come and be a part of it in that sense. But from the volunteer standpoint, it's having known, like, being on the course before, it's like, okay, I know this is an upcoming hill, these participants are going to be tired. Try to give them some energy or a positive smile or a high five or encouragement when they get up here as they're coming up here, so they can continue to push through, handing them out beverages, snacks, things to help replace their energy. It's it's knowing what they're going through and then being able to try to give them some positive motivation to continue, especially for the ones that aren't as fast as some of the others. We're out there for long periods of time. As a participant myself, that's not a fast racer. It's like I still want that same level of energy, or hope for that same level of energy from the volunteers to encourage me to get to that finish line too. So having seen both sides and doing both sides, I appreciate the volunteers. I like to volunteer as well because it's almost giving back, or it is giving back basically. And sometimes I don't always have a smile on my face when I'm racing, but definitely if someone comes up to me, or if I come up to someone and I see them, the least I can do is offer them a smile. Sometimes the encouraging words just aren't there and they may not be in a space to accept it. But even if I'm volunteering, just give them a smile and hopefully that brightens or uplifts them to continue to take those next steps or continue to pedal and get up that incline. So it's volunteering, like I said, it actually makes the race. You can't have the race if you don't have people volunteering to put it on.
So true. So true. And a smile is all you need to offer people. A smile is it speaks it has its own language
Mm.
that doesn't need to be, addressed. The smile says so many things. Man, so we do the progressional lead, the slow base build up. Um, I want to go back and talk about the swim because oftentimes swimming is one of the most challenging, and it could be an extreme barrier to entry.
Mm.
When you finished your race, the very first one, you mentioned you had to flip over on your back in the pool.
In the pool that I
And a
could
lot of
stand up
times
in.
people are flipping over on their backs like in open water to calm themselves down. And again, like it just dawned on me, like I went back because I think that's okay.
Mm.
And so what did you do to build your swim up? Because were you just learning how to swim? Or you just hadn't swam in a very long time, so you weren't as comfortable and needed to regain your confidence. What was that situation about?
Sure. So I think just the energy or the pack mentality when I got in the water just put me at a much faster pace than I needed to be. So I burned out probably after 200 meters, and I think it was a 400 meter or 600-meter swim. And pool swims, unfortunately, can get a lot crowded just because there's so many people in a small amount of space. And it's funny because I was much taller than the height of the pool. Why I didn't just stand up and gather myself, I don't know, but turning on my back to get air in just seemed like the easiest way to manage. But looking back on it, it was pretty dangerous because people are touching the wall and coming back towards the other way because it's two people in a lane. It was just a mess. I wasn't a great swimmer to begin with, but I think I know for sure I came out the gate way too fast, just off of nerves and energy and just being in that environment. But it was a great learning experience for sure. It's like, okay, you do have a way to recover yourself if all else fails. May not be the best way to recover yourself while you're in a pool full of people, but it it just happened was that was a way to get oxygen back to myself and my mind a little bit clearer.
And I want to go to natural instincts because now thinking back on it, you're like, I
Could have just stood
could
up.
have just stood up. Why didn't I stand up? Because like that is a natural thing. Let me roll over. And
Mm,
so you have the natural instincts of swimming is, when you're just duressed, flip over on your
yep.
back, get yourself calm, and then continue to move forward. Now I want to take that experience and carry it over to April of 2024, where you're going from swimming and could barely get out for the 400 or 600 meters or yards the pool
Mm.
was, to now swimming 2.4 miles and then adding on a 112-mile bike and then topping that off with a little cherry of a 26.2 run. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So between 2021 and 2024, I ended up taking a tri swim class that tremendously helped my swimming skills. Even now, I don't think that I'm a great swimmer, but it taking that class for sure increased my level of comfort just in the pool and in open water, to start with. And then being a part of Mid Maryland and Rip It, paired up with a lot of people that were open to doing open water swims at one of the parks here, Hammerman Beach, up in, I think it's still in Maryland, but went out there a went out there quite a bit just to get open water swim practice. And for me, the swim part is the most, for lack of a better word, enjoyable of triathlon. So I enjoy being in the water, not fast, but it's the most enjoyable for me. So I put in a ton of time and hours just being in the water, making sure that I could swim the distance. Of course, investing in a wetsuit helped, but it was taking the tri swim class, going to, there's another organization out this way called Crossing Currents. Went out to a few of their events in Annapolis, and it's going back to swimming on my back. One of the things that the coach or organizer there, before we even went out into the open water, we were still in probably waist deep water. She asked us, she said, "What is your recovery? If you get out there, what is your recovery swim?" And I had never even considered what is my recovery swim. And so she was like, if all else fails, you can just turn on your back. Don't recommend you swimming far, but if you just need to recover, get on your back, take a few deep breaths. And it's funny going back full circle to the first triathlon. I was like, okay, I guess instinctively it was just to flip over, but when she had said it in the open water, it really just settled. It's like, okay, if all else fails and you just need to gather yourself, get on your back, get away from the crowd, and then figure out what you need to do so you can keep pushing forward. But as far as going from the pool to the full distance in Texas, it just was a lot of pool swims. But for me, I enjoy being in the water. That is a discipline that I like the most.
That is so good to hear because most people who are still learning how to swim and appreciate the benefits of the water not often will say that swimming is enjoyable. Um, and so I'm really proud to hear that because that means the water has treated you well and you've treated it well by respecting it. You have to really, truly respect the water. But that's just really good to hear.
I will say this, pool water has treated me well, open water not so much. In the back of my mind, anytime I get into open water, I'm like, all right, well, the Loch Ness monster's in here, it's gonna get me. I just need to get out. So it's always a there's always a respect for the open water. And even the group of people that I train with, the swimming is the last thing that they truly want to train. And I'm like, all right, well, just meet me at the pool because I enjoy the swim, like I said, more than the biking and the running. But it's a huge fear factor for a lot of people. And I myself still have have my nervous moments before I get in the water. But once I'm in it, it's like, okay, we at least know how to swim. We can safely get out of here. Just
Yeah,
go for it.
let's go for it. There it is. So your first 170, oh, not 170, I'm mixing the two races together. Look at me trying to make you get into the ultra world. Like I'm like increasing the distance, but 140.6, um, which was in open water. You're right. You tell yourself what you need to tell yourself to get out of that water as fast as you need to. Um, what was the bike and the run like in crossing that finish line for the first time and becoming an Ironman?
The bike, so unfortunately, probably 2.5 weeks before Ironman Texas, I ended up having a really bad upper respiratory infection, and I didn't even know if I was going to be well enough to do the race. But things worked out where I felt okay enough to make the trip out to Texas, and then on race day, it was like, okay, you're not coughing, you're breathing okay, it'll be fine. And so after getting out of the water and then getting onto the bike, I believe the race course was disclosed as being flat for the bike. And it was anything but flat. So
Okay, let's
getting
pause
out,
there.
yeah,
Don't you hate when they say that the course is flat, but it's not? It's like their definition of flat is not a hill, not a mountain.
yeah.
But okay, I
It's
digress.
flat on the paper that they draw it on, I guess. But when you actually get out there, it's nothing but flat. And having done a lot of training indoors through the winter time in preparation for that race, I did not get a lot of time outside doing climbs and things of that nature. Mind you, you can increase the resistance on the indoor bike, but I was very underprepared for the circumstances that showed up at Texas. And there was a super strong headwind that basically had me at 9 and 10 miles per hour. And that just wasn't what I needed for a race day. And it was devastating because it's like, man, is this how the entire bike is going to be? So I think for the first 60 miles going out, you're against the wind, but then coming back, it's with you. And so that made it a good ride coming back, but it's two loops. So then you have to go back out and fight it again just to come back. And it was super humbling because the bike ride itself took 8 hours and 22 minutes. And all of my training plans, I was not supposed to be anywhere near the 8 hour mark for my bike ride. And it's like, man, I've spent all this time and energy just trying to get through the second leg. Am I even going to have the strength to make it through the run? And the remnants of the upper respiratory infection, I'm like, all right, my breathing is okay, but it's not at what I would want it to be doing this type of event. Um, yeah, barely made it through the bike. And when I got off the bike, before I got off the bike, actually, there were tons of people, and I say tons of people, there were numerous people on the side who were just waiting to be picked up by I guess, the buses in the sense that they just didn't have it in them or didn't want to finish, whether it was for the fighting the headwinds or whatever it was. even just seeing that side, it's like, man, these people have basically just given up for the day. And I didn't want myself to be in that position. So by the time I made it back to T2, I was like, if anything else fails this race, I at least made it through this bike ride that had so many people on the sidelines not finishing. The run, it was just going to be what it was going to be. I think I had a little under 7 hours left to complete the 26.2. And this would have only been the second time that I had actually attempted or ran a marathon. And after the bike, my legs were just shot. I was tired, didn't want any more goos or sweet things to eat, but I had a pretty good support team in Texas that met me outside of T2 and gave me some encouragement there and then on the run, but it was just miserable. It was not a good it was not a good marathon to try to run. But Lord bless, we got through it. The sun went down and I believe when I crossed I had 2 minutes and 57 seconds left before the 17-hour cutoff mark. So super excited that I made it through that, but it was definitely a mental challenge for sure. Physical, absolutely, but just knowing that the clock is ticking down and you've put in all this time and effort to get here, the race wasn't necessarily what you anticipated it to be. Can you continue to push through this to see yourself through it? Or do you call it quits to try to race another day?
Mm. A lot of good questions you asked yourself while you were out there that so many of us have asked ourselves out there on the course. But the one thing you were just like, and it was just miserable. Don't tell the people it's miserable. That is not how you sell the race, Adam. That's not a selling point.
A selling point, no, but if you have any type of acute illness or distress,
It
I
is.
don't recommend you doing a 140.6. Take care of yourself, get better. But again, you've invested time and effort into it, and
And
you
it's a
just have
lot
to
of
make that,
time.
yeah, you have to make that call for yourself. So, not miserable in the sense of doing a 140.6, just the circumstances that were surrounding me for that particular event.
Yeah. Will you do another? You don't have to answer. I see.
Okay.
He's like too.
So the one of the reasons that I ended up doing the 140.6 is two of my good friends that were part of Ripid and Mid Maryland, who I'd done a lot of training with in 21 and 22. That was a goal for the three of us to do a full. One of the friends did Maryland, and I just was not anywhere near being ready to try to do a full then. And I thought the second friend would have been able to do Texas, but that didn't end up happening. So, still on the books to get this last friend to their 140.6, and that may be an event that the three of us end up doing together. So,
I love that. Friends who help friends get across that 140.6 finish line. It's a special bond for sure. Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it. It's been so good. We now have this part where we come in where we ask you some really fun questions for rapid fire. With that said, let's begin. One, I just want to start here. Do you have any race superstitions?
no.
Do you have any pre-race rituals that you do to get yourself prepared for, whether it's eating the same meal before a race start, whether it's, carrying your favorite compression socks? Like, what is some of your rituals that you do prior to any of your races?
Don't know if I'd call it a ritual, but it has been drilled and ingrained in my head that there's nothing new on race day. So I try to avoid any new foods, gels, equipment, just if you haven't practiced or trained with it, it's probably not meant for that event. But I like to take a gamble every now and then, so sometimes that doesn't stick. But that would probably be a tradition, I guess you could say. Just nothing new on race day.
Okay. What or who inspires you?
What or who? Hmm. Honestly, just seeing the older population of triathletes, because whether they just started or whether they've been doing it for years, it's amazing to continue to get up and do sprints, super sprints, Olympics, fulls, having experienced the level of commitment and willpower and physical ability that it takes. That really is an inspiration. And even outside of triathlon, if I'm just thinking about it, it's like, okay, if I can put forth that same tenacity that they're putting forth to get through these events, just
Mm-hmm.
in other things, it's a point to remember. It's like, okay, these people are doing something that is really hard. I can give it a shot.
Morning or evening workouts?
Evening.
Gel or real food for race day nutrition?
Real food, if I could handle it. Gel um, is a little more easier to get access to.
Taper week, love it or hate it?
Depends on the distance. So if it's a sprint or Olympic, love it. If it's a half or a full, hate it because it's just anxiety until race day.
Okay. Dream training partner, alive or historical?
Can you repeat the last part? I'm sorry.
Dream training partner, alive or historical?
Alive?
Who would be your dream train?
Sure.
Who would be
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah,
I like that. That's fair. Um, who would be your dream training partner,
probably
alive or historical?
one of my old personal trainers. I would love to see them do a triathlon because you see them in the light of being personal trainer, they're fit, but it would be interesting to see if that fitness actually correlated into the world of multi-sport.
Aha. Favorite music artist?
Unpopular opinion, but probably Drake. But outside of that, it would be Larry Graham.
Who?
Larry Graham.
Okay. Um, well, that yeah, that is well, okay. Um, so what's your favorite song?
I don't know that I really have a favorite song. Like training song or just something that I would put on to
Yeah, we'll do training or yeah, training. Favorite training song.
sure. All of the Lights by Kanye West and everybody else who's on that song.
You love a very controversial artist. I'm here for it. And and with that, we're going to end this podcast with you do you pee on the bike or get off and take your proper pee?
Me and my controversial artists get off of our bike and find the nearest receptacle to use the restroom.
Okay. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Wait, I might not have dignity in my music choices, but definitely when I use the restroom, try to keep it there.
Fair. And dignity is all in the eye of the beholder. With that said, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed listening to this story. Remember to like, share this with your friends, follow us on social media. Oh my gosh, so excited. We hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. Yes, yes, yes. So thank you to our YouTubers. Getting to 100 was a really big goal for me for 2025, and we've already hit it, and we're in May. So I am just overjoyed. So more followers on YouTube. Really just so excited about that because that really just, I know we're doing really well on the podcast side too. So I say subscribe on both places. Find your podcast that you like, find the YouTube that you like, tap in, listen to these stories, get motivated and encouraged so that you can try. And I'm learning that a lot of I would say veteran athletes really enjoy these conversations. So thank you to everybody who slides into my DMs and tells me about your favorite guest that comes on. I appreciate that. We have the saying on Try Beginner's Luck, whenever you try, you always win. That is so true. It may not always look like a win in the moment, but it is truly a win. My name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines. And for right now, we are out. Peace. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.